Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, and we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And before I introduce my guest, I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friend Preston Poulter's book, Palace of the Golden Princess, which offers a fun, sexy romp through a fantasy RPG setting run by women. Issue 3 launches soon on Kickstarter, and right now my friend Preston is offering a free PDF of issue 1 if you sign up for his email list at pocketjackcomics.com, so you can try it before you buy it, as well as by my other good friend JD Rosario, who does Limbo. So check out Limbo, open almost all of Eternity 1 and 2, where you will find demons, breasts, boos, hell freezing over, and not safe for work covers, a comic book too naughty not to be nice. But enough about those two books, because I have with me comic creator Peter J. Mellini. So welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, no, I'm doing great. Obviously, I'm excited to have you on. We're going to be talking about a book that's a little bit different because it's a little bit childish, if I will, and it's a children's comic book, which I think is always interesting. And that is Gordo, the Teenage Flying Saucer, issue 3.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get too far into this issue, what is the basic premise of Gordo, the Teenage Flying Saucer, for those who are hearing about it for the first time?
So it's about a teenage boy he lives in a fictional city called Stardust. It's a desert town near an Air Force base, and he's given the power of a flying saucer. So anything a flying saucer can do, he can fly. He has a tractor beam, laser beam, stuff like that. And his town is like ground zero for aliens. So it's very much like a superhero book, old school superhero book. He's dealing with alien stuff. He's also being hunted by this like mysterious general. Like it's very X-Files, like that old school,
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about this, because there's a lot going on. Because obviously, I think he's 13 years old, so he's just entering his teenage years. He's still a kid, and obviously he has these powers. He also has, I think, a few friends.
Yeah.
You see a shape-shifting alien warrior, Otto, an AI of an extraterrestrial origin. We're not too sure what Otto is or does, or who Otto or what Otto is.
Yeah.
And they're sort of friends, and they're being heroes. And
yeah.
What is this like? Because it's kind of fun, because you have a trio of heroes wanting to protect their hometown from threats, but they're also still kids.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fun because it's a nice little balance. It's a nice little sweet book.
Yeah. It's very like we try to do like classic, like old school, like year one Spider-Man type of thing. It's very like he's got a secret identity, which isn't a big thing anymore. I feel and it's fun. It's a fun adventure book. It's an all ages book, so it's geared towards kids as far as like it's not crazy violent or any of that, but it's pretty cool. Like we've been playing around with a lot of stuff, and it's basically for it's for all ages. So like a lot like adults will get stuff that kids won't.
I want to touch upon that, but I'm going to table that a little bit, because I do want to dive a little bit into the story, because obviously you have these three characters, and then pretty much a mysterious alien called the Blue Monkey with a ray gun comes down.
Yeah.
And I love the concept. I love the concept of that whole title. And I think they wind up where I think Gordo kind of gets his butt kicked a little bit.
Yeah.
I think CC winds up capturing this mysterious alien. They then hand it over to the general and goes to a military base. And then what winds up happening is they kind of realize they made a mistake.
Yeah.
A little bit, where the alien might be radioactive, it might be explosive, it might be uncontained, it might really not be an enemy, and the general's a bad guy, or maybe the general's just the government, and the government has its own idea, where I don't want to say bad guy, might be in quotations here. And then issue 3 is kind of them breaking into the Area 66, if you will.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And so what is this like? Because it's very cool, and there's a lot of stuff that's going on where you have a position of doing the right thing, or thinking you're doing the right thing, realizing that you might have made an error, trying to correct your error, and then sort of discovering maybe some stuff you didn't want to know, or maybe you thought the good guy isn't so much the good guy, and doing it at that level, because I wouldn't say that's traditional superhero stuff.
Yeah.
But it is superhero stuff
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless.
Yeah, that was the idea. Like, so, like, it's funny because the initial concept is based. Well, originally there was a public domain character called Fat Man, the Human Flying Saucer, uh, he was created by the guys that created Shazam. And this book only lasted 3 issues, and I ended up finding a copy of it, and I just was tripping out how weird it was. And so me and my writing partner Miguel, we were talking about like adapting it because it's public domain, so we could do it. And we tried doing a straight adaptation, and it was like, nah, it's just too weird. And we tried to do like a serious version of it, and it was like it doesn't work. And so we came to the conclusion of like if we make him a kid, we could be silly and get away with that and still be kind of serious. But now it's very it's not it doesn't look like that book at all anymore. Like, so it's a kind of an inspiration now, you know.
So let's talk a little bit about that too, because that's interesting, because obviously there's books that inspire me, and I am not a comic writer yet. I may be at some point, or I might do a comic project, but right now I'm tabling that because comics are expensive.
Yeah.
To make, and
a little bit.
I really like money, and I have an eBay business that's working, and I don't have the itch yet. And people have said, if you don't have the itch and you could avoid the itch, just avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
But what is that like, though, to have a book that gave you the basis and the base, and then to take it and bring it and make it your own? Because I think it's very cool when people have a cool, like, the spark, and then they create their own fire. And so what is that like? Because I think it's very interesting what inspires us and what drives us as creators.
Yeah. Well, I think what it is too, like, you know, like I said, like me and my friend Miguel, who co-wrote the book with me, we've been talking about making comics forever, and like it's always like we have 101 ideas, and this one just kind of just happened. We're like, all right, let's work on this, and literally, like I think every week we sit down and talk, and we joke that we have like 100 issues in mind already. Like we know where the story goes, you know. It just kind of like, it's gonna sound kind of exaggerated, but it just kind of take over your life a little bit, you know, like where you can't help thinking about it. Like you should be doing something else, but like oh, it'll pop in your head like we should do this with the book, you know.
So let's actually talk about this, because obviously, I don't think you're gonna mind me saying this, but you own a comic shop.
Yeah.
I think you have also founded, or you run a convention as well. And so what is that like? Because I think that the comic shop and the convention stuff came first.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong at any point, but then you're now doing a comic, and that's a very interesting thing now, because 10 years ago, people who ran comic shops were not doing comics.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who run comic shops still aren't doing comics. And what is that like? Because now you're getting, obviously, if you're running a comic shop, you're massively part of the industry. Now, if you're a comic creator and you do it, you're seeing a whole nother side of the industry, where it's kind of like Inception. You go down a level, right?
Yeah, no, like I've owned a comic book store for about 11 years now, and I actually had bought it from my previous boss. I always wanted to own a comic book store. That was like always my goal from day one. And so once I had paid off the store, I had said like, well, you know what, let's start a show. And the show was an idea because I live in East LA, and a lot of my friends are from there. Some of us still live there, and there was never a comic book show there. So we thought like, well, let's host one. Let's do one. And we did that. We did that for about 3 years, and then COVID hit, and so we had to pause it for a minute, and we're looking to bring it back next year, early next year. But yeah, so then I think the second show, we released the first issue of Gordo. And it was one of those things where like I was like, well, I have a store, I have a show. Now I have 2 venues to promote a book, so let's just do the book, you know?
Yeah, because to even go further into that too,
Yeah.
because obviously this is one of the advantages that I think I will have is if I run a comic book, I have a aggressive eBay store that sells books,
Mhm.
and so I naturally have an area and a distribution method, or I can create just an exclusive for my eBay store,
Yeah.
or if you have a comic book store, you can host your own
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah.
You could have your own store variant. You can go and pick up and produce more stock.
Yeah.
You have a distribution method
Mhm.
outside things. And also, if you're a shop and retail wise, I'm sure you know other shops.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
now there's networking and connections. And I think it's a very, very, very interesting position to be in when it's an advantage. And that's what I think is so interesting about this is that when you do have a book and you do have a store or you have a distribution method, now you're at a very different level versus somebody who doesn't have that. And so what is that like? Because I think it is massively helpful.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like especially we did a Kickstarter last year around November, and it was really interesting to see and obviously I promoted it through the store too. Like we did, we put it in the newsletter, we put it on social media, um, and it was very interesting because we did get a lot of our regulars picking it up. And I think just a lot of it was out of curiosity though, because I see this guy every week, and he did a comic, But yeah, no, it helped a lot. Like during the pandemic, we had to learn how to really like ship stuff, and do the phone call orders and all that stuff. So once the first Kickstarter went through, I already knew how to do all that stuff. Like that was easy, just to to ship everything out, and especially because we have a base to do it out of. And it did help out a lot. And I think, I mean, I don't think I did that consciously, but I did have to like put all that together first.
Do you also think that given that you're a shop, it
Mhm.
adds a layer of legitimacy when you go and you do a book
Yeah.
where or like this is how I feel as an eBay store and then I have a podcast and then I do some other stuff. I feel like there's a layer of legitimacy where when a buyer has an issue and says you're on a pre-order, I'm like, look, I'm on YouTube and I am not running away anytime
Yeah.
soon. You can find me every week.
Yeah.
If you don't have your book in 3 months, you can find me
Yeah.
really quickly. And most people are like, I get it that you're not running away.
Yeah. No,
So
yeah, sure. But at the same time, though, it's funny because issue 2 ended on kind of a big cliffhanger, and so I had people coming in being like, "When's the next one? When's the next one?" I'm like, it's coming, I promise." And because they knew exactly where to find me, like you said, you know.
but I think it does. I mean, even going to that too, though, isn't that a
Yeah.
good thing that
Oh
people
yeah, no, definitely.
invested where it's the idea that obviously I'm not doing a story, but I have buyers who say, "Hey man, I saw that interview."
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. I'm not interested in buying anything from you, but really enjoyed your interview. And then
Yeah.
I have a buyer who obviously he had an issue with his book. We solved the issue, but he wound up subscribing to my YouTube channel. He's a regular
Oh,
watcher now, and
yeah.
so it's very cool for me because now I'm actually knowing my buyers both on a personal level and on
Mhm.
a buying level. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting when you get that relationship. And
Hmm.
I would imagine as a comic shop, you're now saying, cool, if I know that my backers really like Marvel-esque covers and you're 90% Marvel, I mean, that also must influence you some degree. Maybe not in writing the story, but what covers you want on your book, because that's a whole
Yeah.
ball game.
Hmm. No, yeah. Obviously, I order books practically weekly now. I think that with the new distribution method, like Marvel stuff, we're doing weekly orders, which is like a headache, but it's kind of cool because you're trying to see like what is big again. They're doing chromium covers again, which is like, I started reading comics in the '90s, and I was like, I remember chromium covers, and it's what's new, what's old is new again.
I know, and those are not in the dollar bins anymore, are they?
Yeah. No.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Like 5 years ago,
Yeah.
all these Top Cow chromium covers and
Yeah.
foil covers were for $1,
Yeah.
and nobody was looking at them. And now, like, you're looking at them at like $5-6 a pop. It's
Yeah.
terrible. It's like back 3-4 years ago, man. Oh man, all day those chrome covers that nobody was looking at.
Yeah.
But the reason why I asked this is that you have a real advantage because you can see market research in
Yeah.
real time. And that shouldn't influence the art style of this book, because a children's comic is a little bit different, but that can influence covers for you very
Yeah.
efficiently.
Oh,
And
yeah.
cool, if I know this is selling and these are right now hot and they've been hot for 3 years, if I put this up on a Kickstarter, it's not a perfect match, but I know if I'm going to have overstock that it'll sell in my store.
Yeah, no, for
And that's
sure.
a really big advantage that I
Mhm.
think people who don't have comic shops don't realize. And I think it's so interesting because when you can leverage business A into leverage B to C to D to E,
Mhm.
there's real ability to make money.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think it's so interesting. I just think that unfortunately people sometimes don't realize how to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's like a lot of things too. Like I've met people that have opened comic shops thinking like it's just fun like sitting around reading comics all day, but it's not. It's hard, man.
I- I'll ask you.
Yeah.
How much emotion is in your business?
I,
I'll rephrase.
yeah. Yeah.
So a nice collection comes into your shop, right? And
Hmm.
it's got some cool keys in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Of some, maybe some DC, some key Teen Titans, maybe a few key Batman books and some
Hmm.
other stuff. Do you get saying, "Oh man, I want this for myself," or do you say, "Hey, I like these books, but I also have to pay the electricity bill
Yeah. No.
because this is how my business operates,
Yeah.
is that I understand that I like certain books.
Hmm.
But I'm like, this book's going for $150 and I paid 20 for it. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying I have to pay my electricity bill with my comic book sales, but I'm
Hmm.
like, $100 in profit can go a
Yeah.
long way to, something else here.
Yeah.
Maybe an extra little bit to my mortgage, maybe a little bit extra to something else, getting
Yeah.
that, maybe pay off my Mac faster. So like, I don't think people have a full understanding
Yeah.
that that's something that has to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I post pandemic, I kind of slowed down on buying collections mostly because I don't know what it was. I think people started collecting more, and so like I would have people coming in and trying to sell me like they'd be like, "Oh, this is going for this much on eBay." I'm like, "Then sell it on eBay." Like it's not like they don't understand that I'm buying this to sell it. Like I'm not buying this to keep it.
You
And
you have to buy something at 40 cents on the dollar on the high end.
yeah, yeah, like
Depending on the book.
yeah,
Sometimes a book will trade a little bit higher. I'll
mhm,
throw in a book that tends to trade higher, Saga 1, a
yeah,
9.8 Saga 1. You're going to have a hard time buying that for 40 cents on the dollar.
yeah,
Graded in a 9.8, that's a hard book at 40 cents on the dollar. That's more like 70 cents on the dollar.
yeah,
But you're not going to make much on a Saga 1.
hmm
But they don't come up. That's why they're worth money.
yeah. No, exactly. And then I think a lot of times people are coming in with stuff, and they're just like, "Well, this is what it's going for." I'm like, "Okay, but I can't give you that," like. And so like, I mean, occasionally when I do buy stuff, a lot of times it has to do with like oh I kind of want this or like I want that like. But
I,
I try to
I deal with a lot of clients like that where
yeah
they'll spend $150 because the book is impossible to find. It's
yeah
sold out in 3 or 4 minutes and nobody's putting a book up.
yeah
I mean, I have books that when I put them up, they go for that money for 60, $70 when they first came out for 20 because they're not available anymore.
yeah
And you don't have a choice but to buy it. And I try to be as reasonable as humanly possible. Where
yeah
if I bought for 20, I'll happily sell for 50 all day long
hmm
because I'm not interested in being greedy if it moves quickly. If I have to hold on to the book for 2 years, I'm going to want 60 or 65 because I've had to hold on to it longer. My prices don't go down; they go up. But it's so interesting. I just find this whole space interesting, and I think a lot of people don't understand it. My favorite people, and I don't know how you feel about these people, but if I buy a book for $20, my favorite people on eBay are the ones who offer me 15.
Yeah. Yep.
those are my favorite individuals, and I really appreciate those individuals on a whole different level because I'm like, bro, it was $20 when it first came out. Like it's $20 right now, technically on that company's site. Like, really, if you want it, just go buy it from them.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
But then again, people buy from me even when it's live on the other site because they feel more comfortable that they're going to get customer service. Where I've had buyers say, I would rather buy from you for $5 more because I know it's going to arrive perfectly. You're going to take care. And if there's a problem, you're going to solve it faster. I've had a buyer say, I know it's going for this. I'm willing to pay you $10 more because you're going to get me a lower number and you're going to take care of me if there's an issue. And it's quite humbling. It's quite humbling, actually.
Yeah, imagine, yeah.
But I digress. I mean, I find also, but I do want to get back to your books because a lot of inside baseball is really interesting because obviously children's books are hard.
Yeah.
They're hard. If they're in a hardcover, of course. I'm sorry. It was too easy of a joke. No. Children's books, though, are very hard to do, all jokes aside, because it's different than if you have it out at a con table. It's easier to sell, I think, at a con than a regular person's book. I think an adult book at a con is harder to sell than a children's book because every kid who's passing by is a customer because they can see it.
Yeah.
And also the parents, I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that they say, oh, look, it's a $5 comic book. Do you want it, little Johnny? And then Johnny's happy because he feels like he got something. And Dad just spent $300 on comics, and Johnny he got a $5 comic, and Johnny doesn't care.
Yeah,
Johnny's just happy.
Yeah.
But on Kickstarter, I think it's a lot harder because little Johnny, who's 5 years old, doesn't have a credit card.
Yeah.
And little Johnny doesn't know how to use Kickstarter yet, or the parent is buying it for little Johnny, but they don't know if little Johnny's going to want it. Then it takes 3 months to produce it, and little Johnny has to wait, even if little Johnny knows it's coming.
Yeah.
And so what is that like? Because I was speaking with Rob Matari last night, and he has a Wolf Pups book, a Werewolf Pups book up from Night Wolf. That's a children's book, and it's hard. It's hard. And it's cool. So I'm really curious how you feel and even what your experience has been like, because it's tough.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely. Like we're looking at, like I think the hard thing about all ages comics is like the bigger studio, like a Marvel, DC, they'll put out an all ages book and it's like super watered down. It's super like simple and like because they're afraid of offending someone or something. I don't know. It's very simple, and I feel like it's talking down to some of these readers, like these kids. So with our book, we call it an all ages book because it's not offensive. There's no There's no ultra. It's not ultra violent or anything like that. There's no any of that. So we feel like anyone could read it, but we do try to make it feel like a serious superhero comic.
So let's talk about that. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm really curious because I think that kids today are smarter. I'm 30. I don't know how old you are. How old are you? So relatively, we're not that close in age, but we're not that far apart either. But when I was a kid, and probably when you were a kid, television wasn't as smart as it is today.
Yeah.
By far. I mean, I have a niece, and what she's watching is far superior than what I was watching as a child. And what my sister was watching as a child.
Yeah.
So that should tell us everything about certain things where I think that most kids get things. I think kids, I think a 5-year-old could tell you what divorce is, to be quite honest. I really do. I couldn't tell you what divorce was at 5 years old. That was
Yeah.
25 years ago. So that's something that's interesting in of its own right. I also think that when Marvel and DC do all age books, I think that they're testing markets. I think also they have corporations to deal with.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I think that it's really interesting to find that balance of saying, how can I let a kid grow into a thought process?
Yeah.
How do I keep them from experiencing somebody's head from being chopped off?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm using those examples where I don't think having somebody shot in particular in a children's book is not off the table.
Yeah.
I just think that you want to do it in a way that is appropriate. If that
Yeah.
makes any sense, maybe
Oh,
this is a bad example. Maybe somebody breaking a leg should be in a children's book, right? Versus somebody's leg being severed and snapped in two and then being cut off.
yeah.
There-
No,
There's a big difference between those two things, and they both highlight the same point. If we're really going to boil it down, so what is that like? Because I do think you want to respect your reader.
yeah, it's funny. Like every time me and my co-writer talk, and I'll pitch him something, and I'm always like telling him like, "Well, I think this might be a little too dark," and his response is always the same. He's like, you know what, Harry Potter is considered an all ages book, and that gets pretty crazy.
Do you also feel that? I mean, how often do you publish an issue? Is it once a year, or are you trying to do it a year?
Yeah, it's about at this point. We're trying to like our plan is if once this one goes through, is to do 2 issues next year, but one of them is going to be like self financed, and so like the Kickstarter will include both the final 2 issues of the arc. So we'll have like 2 issues next year, hopefully. Like
So the reason why I ask is that if you look at Harry Potter,
yeah,
book 1, book 2, book 3, and book 4, I mean, I grew up reading Harry Potter. That was my generation.
yeah,
So I was I think like maybe like 10 when Harry Potter came out, maybe 8, 9, 10-ish, around that realm. So I grew up and I was 17. I was probably 16 around when Harry Potter ended. I remember going to the midnight releases. Good times. I remember going, I had a blast. It was a lot of fun. So one of the things that was a lot of fun is that by the book 6 and 7, I grew up with Harry Potter and the level of what was acceptable
yeah.
was okay. And do you feel that with your book and what you're doing with Gordo, that every time you release a book, obviously you have new readers coming in, but you also have retaining readers. And
Yeah.
I think comic books need to learn how to grow with their audience, especially an all ages book. I'm not saying you make it N17.
Yeah.
But if you have 9 issues, I think issue 9 has to be a little bit more sophisticated than issue 1.
Yeah.
I do. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but that's what I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like I said, like we're looking at like if you see like this old interviews with Stan Lee when he was first working on those early Spider-Man books, he was talking about how he had no problem using college level words or concepts because he knew that like it wasn't just kids reading the thing, and it was also like it was a way to teach like you said, like it's a very teaching thing too. Where like you said, but kids nowadays are more sophisticated. I think they can get a lot more stuff. I don't think you need to make it like super simple.
Did you also feel though that you can make it super simple? Where like this argument gets to the point where I'm trying to think of something that is like this. I can't think. I read a great book. Oh man, I can't think of its name. It was no words were in it. It was about cute little dinosaurs. It was super sweet. It was great. It was all picturesque. It's by this woman named Emily So. Brilliant book. Should have bought like 15 copies of it.
Yeah.
We made a great gift for so many people because everybody loves dinosaurs. Everybody loves dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are amazing. I've never met anybody who hates dinosaurs. If you hate dinosaurs, you have a real problem in your life. But you can speak the most hardened murderer. And it's like, yo, bro, you like dinosaurs? Yeah, try some.
Yeah, there you go, right?
Man, you pterodactyl, that shit's awesome. I guarantee you can like just make some murder and be talking about dinosaurs for hours. It's great. I mean, they just caught the guy. What was it, in Pennsylvania? I bet you they could have caught him a lot faster if they threw out a dinosaur trap.
Yeah.
You take the dinosaur and like the oatmeal, and you pour a little hot water, and then the eggs hatch.
Yeah.
5 minutes, I guarantee you. But this is what Saturday looks like, guys. The comedy hour with yours truly. But I think that you can make it very simple, and then also go down, because sometimes I just want to read something ridiculous. Like, I don't know, have you read Axe Cop by any chance?
Yeah.
Oh, Axe Cop is amazing. What a great concept. It's so simple, yet it's so intelligent. If you go beyond Axe Cop, if you haven't read Axe Cop, everybody, you are missing out on one of the greatest comic books of all time, hands down.
Yeah.
It's so, you could read it so simply, or you could be really sophisticated with it, and it's amazing. And it's like my favorite thing to drink when I'm hammered.
There you go.
Did you see what I did there?
Yeah,
I don't know. To drink when I'm hammered. Oh, that's instead of read. Oh, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
That was intentional. That was totally intentional. But what is that? Because I think sometimes parents just say, I want to give Johnny just something simple to read that is going to just be wholesome, because it's a real problem right now, I feel. In literature for children, and I deal with a lot of children's books at my job, I think a lot of people in education are very concerned.
Yeah.
A lot of parents, and I don't think it's political. I think people are saying, I don't want to give my kid something charged, and I just want to give my kids something wholesome that's going to teach them a sense of morality.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, for sure. And I totally get that too. Like, I'm a big Superman fan, so like that's I've been reading Superman for like 30 years. So like, and I feel like it's crazy to me, the fact that like people would say stuff like, oh, Superman's boring, or like the fact that he doesn't have the big fan base that Batman has, which is, when you really think about it, like, Batman is pretty rough, man. Like,
I mean, this is interesting, actually. Yeah. So let's actually dive into this. And Superman, to me, I love Superman, right? Yeah. I love a good Superman story. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that Superman could kill us all within seconds if he wanted to. Mm-hmm. My favorite Superman book is Superman Red Son.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So good. If you haven't read that one either, everybody, that's is that Bendis, I think, did that, or is it
Miller? No, that was Mark Millar.
Oh, Mark Millar. Wow, I'm way off. Wow, it's been a while since I've read it. Yeah. Great book, though. Fantastic book. It's one of my favorite, where Superman is, instead of kidding when he did in the U.S. 4 hours earlier, or was it 4 hours later? I forget the time. But he's in Russia. He's still the Superman. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of, he is a Soviet patriot Superman.
Yeah,
versus an American Superman. But it's fascinating. I think it's really interesting to talk about the morality.
Yeah, because even in that one, like, even though he grew up in Soviet Russia, he was still like, no, we have to help everybody. Like, I'm Superman. Like, he still had that, that morality.
And then my favorite stuff is that I'm my favorite, one of the best things that I think came out of the whole New 52 was Action. I think Action Comics was the best out of the bunch. I think Earth 2 was pretty good for a while.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed Earth 2. I enjoyed Batman. I thought Scott did a good job with Batman. But beyond that, things hit and missed. But Action was the best out of the bunch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a big Grant Morrison fan, so yeah, that was a fun read.
I mean, the first 12 were great. The first 12 were fantastic. Some of the best work in DC in the last 20 years, which is insane. Which is insane, and to say that the best work in the last 20 years out of DC was Blackest Night. Jeff Johns.
Guy. Oh, Jeff Johns set up so much at that studio. Like, it was a shame when he stopped writing for them. Like, he's back now, and like, this new Silver Age thing he's doing is really fun, but it doesn't come out consistently enough, man, anymore.
I don't even know what that looks like. I got to look into it. I've been disenfranchised from DC and Marvel.
Oh, okay.
It's a problem because after a while, I just got sick of it. It wasn't good anymore. I was bored. I can go back to 2000s to 2015, and I could read all of this good stuff, and it will take me years to catch up. And I could read all of it on Comixology, or a good chunk of it on Comixology. And what am I going to do? Read a graphic? I could read maybe 3 graphic novels a week. And I'm not ever going to run out of content for years to come. And good content. And that's not even going back further into the 90s. If you go back into the 90s, God help you. God help you. Just reading Chuck Dixon's run on Batman for 9 years, God help you. You are solid for years, for a decade. For a decade. Easy. Nightfall alone, you're solid for a year.
Oh, yeah.
For a year. But I digress. But the reason why I bring all this up is that your book definitely touches on this morality position where these characters are learning choices, fixing problems, taking responsibility. And I think it's a very cool thing to lace that in. And I think it's really important in a children's book, more so than an adult book. I don't need a comic book to teach me morality. In fact, I need adult comics to teach me immorality.
Yeah, there you go.
No. And you laugh. But if you're a young man, and this is where I'm going to get controversial, you need a comic book to show a man cheating on his wife, so you don't do that. You need to be shown immorality. When you were a child, you need to be shown morality.
Yeah.
It sounds messed up when I say it, but it's very true.
No, I got you.
And I think it's really interesting. I think it's so important. And when I have kids, I want to give them books that teach them morality.
Yeah.
But I want to give them things that don't shove it down their head, but get into their head. Like, it's the same idea where it's Judeo-Christian values. Where a lot of Judeo-Christian values teach morality. It's not religion so much. It's more morality. It's right and wrong. How to be appropriate in society. And I think it's so important. I think it's really important just in our societal position. And then also I think that it's important for the whole, even going further into this, I think getting kids into comics is a really big thing too right now.
Yeah.
And I think you need to get little Johnny picking up a comic book at a con, or picking up a comic book in a store, or he needs to have something positive to pick up every month or every week or every other week in a store, so that he develops the habit of coming to a comic shop or going to a con and understanding $5 gets me this, $10 gets me this, because that's how you build the next generation. Versus a bunch of 40-year-old men who make $120,000 dropping $50 a week. That's great. Don't get me wrong. That's great. But what happens when those 40-year-old men hit 80 and then they die? Like, what happens then? Like,
no, for sure.
It's a problem. You need Johnny, who's 7, so that when Al, who's 70, who can't walk anymore or is done, Johnny is 40.
No, I got you. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it's very strange. Like you said, like, I think the youngest people that come in here are like in their late teens, early 20s. Like, those are the youngest. And most of the time, like, a lot of those don't even hang on. Like, they'll come for a couple weeks and then they'll just disappear. You know.
I mean, let's talk about that too. This is the issue, right? Retention is a problem right now in a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
So what are really good retention-based businesses? Dunkin' Donuts is a great retention-based business. Starbucks is a great retention business.
Yeah.
The drug business is great at it, depending on what drugs you're selling. I'm just saying, I just watched a whole documentary on OxyContin, and I gotta say, what a retention problem they have. It's unbelievable. That thing was like, oh my Lord, on Netflix. That limited series, so well done. Matthew Brodnick, what a freaking treasure. What a freaking treasure. That guy is something else. He's amazing. But I digress. Going back to comics, what is that like? Because you're a shop owner. I think it's a real issue. in comics right now is retaining customers, and especially young ones. And I understand that if you're 16, you don't have as much money as somebody who's 30 who has a
Yeah.
job making 100,000. But how do you figure out that problem? Because the customer you really want to retain, obviously you want to retain the person making 100,000, but you also want to retain the 17-year-old too, because this what you're hoping is the 17-year-old grows into the 100,000 customer
Yeah.
versus having to go get the 100,000 customer when they're $100,000 customer. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, I get you. I get you.
So I mean, I'm just curious about what you think about that and all that
I
stuff,
think
because you
like,
have a different perspective than I do.
no, I got you. Like, you know what's really interesting? Like, it was one of those things where, like, I don't want to say I took it for granted, but it was like pre-pandemic. You just kind of got used to the fact that, like, you had the same people come, more or less the same people coming in every week. And I think once the pandemic hit, it changed everything in the sense that, like, the people that actually followed through and the people that, like, like offered, like, there was a good like 3-4 months with no comics. Comics didn't exist anymore. They weren't distributing them, and and then during that time, it was a scary time, but you got to see, like, these people you saw every week coming out trying to help in one way or another. And once it was over, once we got to reopen, it was really cool that I think that's the coolest part about my job is I see the same people every week. Like, I see most of the same people every week, and like you said, you end up becoming what do you call it? You get involved in your customers' lives personally, which is really interesting.
Yeah, right. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine that on
Yeah.
Wednesday you see a bunch of people, and let's
Yeah.
say somebody doesn't make it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
You come in on Thursday, you're like, "What happened,
Yeah.
man?" And then the guy's like, "Oh, bro, it was my kid's birthday," or
Yeah.
"Oh man, work was just swamped that Wednesday. I couldn't come in during lunch hour," or "Hey, I was on vacation for a week, man. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Like, in which it becomes odd, right, when
Yeah.
people
Oh
don't
yeah.
show up.
Oh man, there's definitely people there that show up like clockwork, and if they don't show up, you're like, oh, something's wrong. Like, it just feels weird.
Or it could just be that somebody went on vacation and like, hey,
Yeah.
or somebody, I'm sure sometimes customers tell you, hey, I'm going on vacation. I'm gonna just pick up double my order next week. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you got people covered on that very easily.
Of course.
But it's just one of those things where you get to know people's lives, in which I know certain customers, their lives, and I know their spending habits. So
Yeah.
guess what I don't do? I don't send them books every week they come into my store and it's my eBay store. If I know they just spent $130 and I have an idea of their income because of where they live, I'll wait 4 weeks to say, hey, I got this in my store. Guess what happens? I make sales that way.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. But I do want to talk about this side of the store stuff because COVID changed a lot of stuff
Yeah.
where a lot of people were doing live sales on comic shops.
Mhm.
I mean, I could tell you that I haven't been to a Comic Con in 4+ years.
Mhm.
And I don't think I want to go back.
Yeah.
I get 80% of what I want offline. I can get it cheaper online. I can get it shipped to my house and I can actually sell it right as I order it from the distributor, put it on eBay, sell it on eBay, and then when it comes to my house, I don't even open it and I slap a new label and it goes right out.
Mhm.
I would almost be better off saying to my distributor, hey, here's the label. Have fun. And they send it right to the customer. And that's not off the table right now.
Yeah.
And I have a really good business. So what is that like for you? Because I think to some degrees it saved comic shops because your customer now might be in New Jersey and you're
Yeah.
doing a live sale, and great, they wouldn't be coming to your shop anyway.
Mhm.
Or conversely, it also potentially ruined comic shops because your customers in New Jersey and they have no desire to come to your comic shop, but they like your brand. And
Yeah.
it's a tricky situation.
Yeah. I mean, that whole thing changed. It changed the way things are done for sure. But it's a good thing and a bad thing. Like, I know early on when we reopened, we had a lot of people showing up trying to, like, get stuff on the cheap so they could sell it on whatnot and and that was a little frustrating, right? Because I always thought it was funny that they would tell us, they would tell me that they were doing that as a way of, like, trying to get a discount. I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
It's different if somebody is buying 10 issues of
Yeah.
your book on a retail package,
Mm-hmm.
because in that sense that they need to have a discount because they're
Yeah.
purposely buying things in that regard. A lot of what I do is that I go through dollar bins, not because I'm trying to flip it on Whatnot,
Yeah.
but I'm just looking for fun books, right?
Yeah.
I
Right.
walk into a comic shop and somebody brought in 30 long boxes, and it was a shop in Harrison, New York, some in Connecticut, and they had stuff like Lady Death in there that was really good
Mm-hmm.
books, like the leather 10,000 edition.
Yeah.
We got Sia Holmes, like Lola XOXO. They had some of this cool like customer appreciation Witchblade books from like the 90s. They had like some Chromio like Cyberforce books.
Oh,
And
nice.
so like all this cool stuff. They had like all these swimsuit edition stuff from Top Cow. And it was great. And I wasn't looking to flip any of it. I just wanted some cool books. Some of those books I sold for $20, but I wasn't looking to flip it. I just said, oh man, this is awesome. I didn't ask for a discount because it was $1. And I'm like, this looks cool. For $1, I'm gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
But I think it's really interesting. And even talking about Whatnot, I think Whatnot has somewhat ruined comics.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Whatnot. I'm not.
Yeah. Same here.
I might eventually come to it just because it's a good place to distribute. But building up a following on Whatnot's gonna suck.
Yeah.
It's gonna suck. I know it's gonna suck. That's why I'm hesitant to do it. It's not, and also live sales. I love passive sales. I love passive income. Passive income is worth more than active income. If I can make money while I'm sleeping and making money. Two of my favorite things.
There you
go. But all jokes aside, I think it's really interesting because I think Whatnot has saved comic shops, but again, I also think it's damaged them.
Yeah.
And now, if I can go buy something on wholesale, right, and I could run a comic shop on Whatnot or an eBay store from my basement, which I'm doing. And technically speaking, there are comic shops that don't have a brick and mortar store at all. And all they do is they sell everything on eBay. And it's kind of crazy. And I think COVID, I think that existed before, but I think it's evidently damaged, the whole industry. And I'm curious how you feel, because culture has been lost, I feel.
I mean, I think so. I think, I agree with you at a point. Like, I think a lot of younger people, I think it's a whole different animal, though. I think people that go on Whatnot are trying to get like those key books, and they're trying to get they're trying to do like the bigger things of that. And not to sound insulting or anything, but I feel like people that tell me they're comic book collectors, but they're only getting key books. I mean, I don't know. I guess you're essentially collecting art because they're slabbed and like whatever. Where I think like shops will still exist because those the readers are different than those kind of collectors.
So I have a different way of looking at this that I'm curious how you're going to react to. So there's four things, right? There's readers, there's collectors. So a reader is obviously somebody who says, I want to read the book. I want the story, right? They're having a good time. They say, I want to know how Peter gets out of this problem.
Yeah.
I want to know how Peter feels after killing his girlfriend. Yeah. I want to know how are you doing, Peter? Yeah. How's life? It's only looking up from here. Don't worry, you'll get the next web. I'm sorry. I should have bought that book a while ago. It's not a hard book to find. It's just a freaking pain in the ass to buy.
Yeah.
What is it, 120 or 121, I want to say?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the pair is really what it is, right?
Yeah.
Of ASM, right?
Yeah.
I forget which one he kills Gwen in. But it's one of my favorite covers is, I think, John Romita. I don't know if it's junior or senior, but they did the Spider-Man variants for the decades of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the one where Peter's holding Gwen and his arms all read out. It might be the 80s. I'm not sure. I sold that book to fund a business, and then I bought it back when my business was healthy.
Oh, nice.
So it came full circle, but I bought it back slabbed as a 9.8. it's a personal book. It's one of my favorite books of all time.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a beautiful cover. It is such a beautiful cover, and it's an amazing cover. But I digress. But so getting back to this, I think there's readers. I think there's collectors who say, look, I like a certain artist. I like a certain story.
Yeah.
I like a certain character. I like a certain variant. And that's what they're collecting. I know people who collect only swimsuit editions.
Yeah.
That's their thing. They really enjoy it. And you have a swimsuit edition of Batman, they're in. If you have a swimsuit edition of Spider-Man, they love it. And they love the Robotech swimsuit edition. And that's all they do. That's all they do. That's their jam, right? So they're a reader, and they might read Robotech digitally, but they will buy the swimsuit edition, or they will buy Miss Robotech or Miss Macross edition that has Lin May on a swimsuit. So that's the collector. Then you have the flippers.
Yeah.
Which is that they buy a book for $20, they sell for $30, $40, $50. And then I think you have the investors as the fourth group. And the investors are saying, I'm going to long this book for 5 years, or I view it as an alternative asset where I much like the Rich use art. So you might say, look, I understand that Hulk 181 and 9.8 is constantly appreciating in value, and that at some point I will get a big exit out where I will spend $10,000 for it and I'll hold on to it for 30 years, and it's a status of wealth. And it's a status of maintaining wealth, and up and down, but statistically, it is a wealth appreciating asset. Then I think you have the traders, where they trade books versus flipping a book. They're trading books.
Yeah,
and they're trading books for cash, capital, options, and a variety of other stuff. So I think you have those 5 categories. And I think what COVID did, and here's how you feel, is that I think it created more flippers, more traders, more investors. And I think it didn't change anything in readership or collectors. I don't think collectors and readership was affected. I think the other 3 were massively affected, and I've played in all of those spaces.
I got you.
So I mean, I'm curious what you think. I mean, if you disagree with me, feel free to disagree with me. I'm more than happy to hear other perspectives.
No, yeah, I think you're right. I think that there's a lot more investors and flippers that came out of the pandemic. Like, I think, like a pandemic, I think, and not just in comic books. I mean, like Pokemon cards got big again. All that stuff got really big. And I think it's because like people were just sitting home, they had nothing to do, and and they had all the extra money, and so
Do you? I mean, this is my take: is that movie theaters weren't working.
Yeah.
You go to Barnes and Noble. You couldn't go to concerts. You couldn't go to the bars. You couldn't go to sporting games. And so what do? You could go to Target. Target has Pokemon cards and has baseball cards. You could technically sort of go to your comic shop, or you could buy everything online. Great. You could get into that. And then you say, cool, why is this book? I bought this book for $5,000. Now it's trading for $50,000. And running an eBay business isn't that hard. Yeah, I could sell this book and I could buy 10 more. Or I could buy the next 10 that I want. And then there you go. And then because baseball cards have become bigger than ever. They've become bigger than ever. And the hobby has been revitalized massively, more so than Pokemon cards have been.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's crazy, but I mean, I just find it fascinating. This whole thing, but that's my take on it, is that, and now what I think is happening, I'm curious how you feel, is that we printed a lot of money in COVID. And we gave people a lot of money. I got money. I was in DC. They gave me an extra $1,200 because I was a resident in DC before all this, before I decided to move back to Connecticut to be closer to my family. But like, here's $1,200, man. Have a good time. Enjoy your life.
Pretty much.
You're in the capital of DC. Here you go, guys. Have at it. And other governments did other things, and other cities did other things like that. And then obviously Biden gave money, Trump gave money, a lot of debts were frozen, and all of a sudden people have a lot more money at their disposal. And now that money has dissipated, and it's created, I think, a bunch of problems where I think we're now feeling the effects of it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it was like everything else. Like, the world did kind of shut down for almost a year. So, like that did cause a lot of problems.
I think we're feeling the effects of it also in stories too,
Yeah.
where
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I think obviously Barbie doing over $1 billion was not on anybody's bingo card
Yeah.
by positioning. Barbie should not have done over a billion. Statistically, that was a freak thing because of the writer's strike, and its only competition was Oppenheimer. That was Barbie's only competition because Barbie was the last major movie to come out before the writer's strike.
Hmm.
And also, what I think why Barbie did well and why I think a lot of stories and certain stories are doing well is because it's a cheerful, bright colored story of us coming out of hell and
Yeah.
out of a bunch of people saying, "Is this the end of humanity?" And we don't know what the future is, and I don't think that's over yet. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people. I think the worst of COVID is past, as I do. I'm very optimistic about that, and people are back in work. But I think the reason why I say we're not fully out of it is that it's going to take 2-3 years after COVID for us to get out of into a better place. And Barbie is a happier thing, and that's what people want. And
Yeah.
I think very interesting about this is that a lot of books like horror, which were doing good before COVID, are not doing good now
Yeah.
because I don't think people are like, I don't want to go back to that. I
No.
just Barbie just having a good time, and he's just being Kenny.
Yeah.
Oh, my shoe doesn't fit. Let's go to the beach in my nice,
Yeah.
what is it? Her pink Corvette, her
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
purple, and that's what I think.
Yeah. No, I got you, man.
Hmm. But I digress. I digress. Um, but since we're talking about comics and obviously you run a shop and all that stuff, I do want to talk about the health of the industry because both on a creation level
Hmm.
and on Kickstarter level, as well as in a shop realm as well. So I figure we'll start with the shop side of things, in which that I mean we're talking about a little bit, but where do you see that going? Because I don't run a comic shop. My business is comic shop adjacent,
Hmm.
if you will, where I understand certain aspects of it. I'm selling comics, but running an eBay business is not the same as running a brick and mortar comic shop for
Yeah.
a lot of reasons. For a lot of reasons, I don't have to deal with comic book Wednesdays.
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with NCWs,
Mm.
new comic book Wednesdays, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a sexual term that has the same acronym. I'm
Oh.
sure of it. I'm sure of it. I don't know what that is. If somebody would like to tell me, you are more than welcome to. My DMs are open on Twitter. My Instagram DMs are open. You are more than welcome to inform me. But it is New Comic Book Wednesdays. But what has that been like? Because and what have you seen? Because I think it's been a very tricky industry lately. And
Yeah, like I said, like it's been going up and down. Everyone's trying new things. We have I would make like one order a month pre-pandemic. Now I'm doing like an order a week. The whole thing has changed, and but I
do,
feel like it's still like it's still pretty strong. I think it's balanced out since the pandemic ended, but I think it's still pretty strong, and it depends. Like I try to be optimistic and with everything I do.
do you feel that there's more opportunity for things outside of DC and Marvel right now?
Oh yeah, no,
And
definitely. Like
and you yeah, sorry, what was it?
I've been ordering a lot more out of DC and Marvel outside of DC and Marvel now. Like we still get it's still like the dominant just because they put out so many books. Uh but we do get a lot more independent stuff. I have a whole wall of like self-published stuff at the store now. And that's mostly because I was wanting to do that, but we moved to a bigger location about 2 years ago, and we have more space now, so I was able to do that. Um, and it's been interesting. Like I've been trying to I push a lot more books. Like I feel like you don't really need to you don't really have to sell the DC and Marvel books. Like those kind of sell themselves. They have so much marketing for that. Like people know Spider Man and Daredevil and Batman and all that stuff. it's the smaller books you have to really push.
Do you also feel though that do you feel like the readers have changed a bit too, what they want? Because this is my whole thing is that I don't even know what's good in comics anymore.
Yeah.
Where if I go into a comic shop, I don't know what book is hot, what series is hot, what series is bad, what series is going to be entertaining, and I don't know. And even when I go through previews, I look at image and I look at an image number one, and I have no information on
Yeah.
anything, and it's a problem. I'll stand corrected. So, for instance, Dynamite's doing the villains with Disney.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the Scar story, right? I'm fascinated, but that doesn't need to sell itself because it's the Lion King.
Yeah.
But then again, I come across something weird, and I'm like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
Like, what was it? Texas Blood, I want to say.
Okay.
That's interesting, and I'm like, "Okay, cool. What is this about? Is it about oil? Is it about demons? Is it about something else? Is it about Nebraska? For all I know." And because it could be that there was a murder in Texas and they ran to Nebraska. It could be a fascinating story, in of its own right. But the point that I get at is I don't know what's good, and I don't think I'm the only one. I really don't, even with DC and Marvel. And then,
Well, I think the thing that I think that's kind of a weird thing when people come in and they're like, they say stuff like, "I don't know what's good." I think it's all perspective. Like something that I would really like, someone else wouldn't and whatnot. I mean, I think it's all about trying to find what you like. I think at the end of the day,
I was in a comic shop and I said, I'm looking for something Marvel that's Spider-Man-esque. Guy gave me Spider-Gwen. I really enjoyed Spider-Gwen. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I said, I don't know much about Spider-Man. I'm looking for something in Spider-Man that's kind of an entry point into the Spider-Verse. I really liked Into the Spider-Verse, the first one, and I'm looking for something in that regard as a graphic novel. What do you got for me? Guys, like, I got you, man. I have an idea. This is what I really enjoyed. And I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be fun to read. I want something that's fun, entertaining, easy to digest. I don't want dark and brooding. The guy's like, oh, I got you, perfect. And I thoroughly enjoyed Spider-Gwen, the first 6 issues of it. Because and then did I think it was the best writing I've ever read? No, but what did I want accomplished, right?
Yeah.
I want it to be taken out of my messed up world for 35 minutes. I want to be interjected into somebody else's for 35 minutes. Be like, she's got a problem. And it's not my problem. And I just get to watch it or see it do it. But that's my problem right now is that I don't know what's good. I have the same problem with TV. I have the same problem with anime is that I've read every good comic that's ever been produced. It is really hard. So I've read Nightfall. I've read Civil War. I've read Fear Itself. I've read Blackest Night. And I don't know what to read anymore in the comic realm for DC and Marvel. If you told me what event they got going on, I have no damn idea.
No, I got you. Yeah, I hear you.
And I think it's a problem, and I don't think I'm the only one. And I mean, what was the last big thing? Like The King in Black?
Yeah.
Like that, and I didn't read it. I have no idea what that thing was about. I just like the covers.
Yeah. I got you.
And the reason why I ask this is that I don't know what the health of the industry looks like, but I'm also a strong believer where I think people criticize saying they're IP farms. So I don't fault DC or Marvel for that, because if I can produce a mobile game every 6 weeks that will produce me $100,000 in a quarter, and then I create a new one that costs 20 G's to make. I mean, who am I kidding on the comic side where great to produce a Daredevil, 12 issues of Daredevil a year is probably costing Marvel 50 to 60 grand with printing. Just to maintain an IP and test an idea that later gets translated over into a mobile game, a movie, or something else. I mean, I was just engaging with Eric Larson on Facebook. I put up a post and I said, when you buy a comic from Marvel or DC, you are buying a first draft of a future movie. And Eric Larson's like, no. I'm like, really? It was a very interesting discussion. It was a polite discussion, but He's like, that's not their intention. I said, but it doesn't matter what their intention is. It's the fact that we look at, what was it, Batman versus Superman? We have the first issue of the graphic novel. I forgot who did it, but there was a graphic novel of Batman versus Superman. And it was that combined with Doomsday, Death of Superman, was that movie. If you legitimately took pieces out of the whole line of Batman versus Superman in the comics and World's Finest, and you connected that to Doomsday, that's what Batman versus Superman was, the movie. That's exactly what it was. Doesn't matter if that was their intention. And what were those books done like 30 years ago?
Yeah.
So it took 30 years to make that movie, but I digress. I don't know where I'm going with this. That's the problem. But to even back out of that and talk about the health of Kickstarter, because you're now doing Kickstarter.
Yeah.
You're on your third. Is this your second or your third one?
The second one.
So obviously I don't remember, because I went through your entire Kickstarter, but I don't remember. Have you backed a bunch?
Yeah, I backed about 30 plus.
I'm not judging. I don't have a problem backing if nobody backs any, or if they back 100. That's not my point. But I've noticed a lot of campaigns struggle. Shouldn't struggle. I've noticed people who barely make it across the finish line, and I know people killing it on Kickstarter. And so, do you feel about that? Because it's a very tricky thing, I feel, at the moment, where people who are not just making it to the finish line, but sailing across it, right?
Yeah.
Going deep, are now barely making it across. And then there's people who have always made it across really hard. There's people who are barely making it. There's people who are failing. I mean, I know people who are going to fail on their campaigns. And I also know people need $5,000 and they're only pulling 3,500. And so I'm curious how you feel and why you think that is, on what's going on with that.
Well, I think the economy is one thing, obviously. Like, I think, a lot of people don't have the extra money right now, and it makes sense. That's just everywhere. Everything's costing more now. I think that's part of it. And honestly, I think it's like, there's probably some like I think I don't know what's changed in the last year, because I was talking to my friend the other day, and like we're kind of far down on the actual Kickstarter page this time around, where we got the Project We Love badge right away, and I don't even know how that happened. It just sort of happened. And when I've actually gone and done research, like, I can't figure out how to do that.
Do you also feel that there's more product out there, in which there are more people doing Kickstarters and anybody can do it? It's also not just
I don't think it's a huge jump, but I noticed there's more people doing it, which is cool. Like, I think.
Do you also feel that there are more mega groups doing it? I mean, we'll mention a few names. We'll just mention them. Merc Mag. I mean, they're a powerhouse. Let's call them what they are, right? There's nothing wrong with it. But when you're doing a campaign every 6 weeks or every 4 weeks, and it does $60,000 to $120,000, I mean, you're taking up a lot of oxygen in the room. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a little annoyed with Merc, but they deserve it. They've caused me a little bit of a financial problem with their Shikari book. It's the Shikari book. If you don't know what it is, guys, I don't know what to tell you. Do some research. Type in Shikari Barbie and it'll come up. I know it kind of rhymes. But not the point. But Merc takes up a lot of oxygen, where I feel, and it's just my thoughts, is that if you're backing a Merc book and you want 3 covers, that takes away from somebody else's campaign. And especially if you're running every 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah. That's the caveat. It's not that if they were running once a quarter. Yeah. If they were running once a quarter, they're not taken away. It's the fact that Merc's business model is, it's us or not us. It's either you're completely in and you're all in on Merc, or you're and nobody else if you want everything, or you're not, you're picking 1 or 2 from Merc. But the people who back Merc are loyal. And then same thing with Lady Death. Lady Death is the other one. When they run Lady Death, they have backers who spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's changed too, is that, and there's a few others like that where people drop a lot of money, where you're dropping $400, $500, $600 worth of pledges.
Yeah.
And that takes up a lot of oxygen in the room, especially if you're running up against a smaller one that has a $15, $20 book, but you just drop $500, you might not be so keen to, you might be out of money.
No, yeah, for sure.
But that's just my take. I mean, you can disagree. I am open.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying, and it is very frustrating to see like.
Oh, you could challenge me. I don't take it personally.
No. It is very frustrating to see like bigger name people, and then especially when you see they haven't backed anything. That kind of annoys me because it's like like I don't know, but at the same time, I feel like the people that are buying stuff from those bigger campaigns, they're not necessarily going to buy from other campaigns. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. People go on there to get what they want, and
I mean, look! I backed the Lady Death book, and then I backed somebody who is small. I mean,
yeah.
I've done both, and
no, I understand, but I feel like that's not everybody. Like just there's people,
I was curious, and I'm very impressed by Brian Pulido's campaign, but I also was waiting to see how he delivered.
Yeah.
So his book didn't come before his last one finished, and so I'm probably going to back the next one because I was very impressed. But it's also sometimes I just don't have cash.
Yeah, no, I got you.
I have months where I have more cash flow, and I have months where I have less.
Mm-hmm.
And certain months I have more liquidity, and certain months I don't. And there you go. And also sometimes, and I'll say this openly, is that I bought people their Christmas gifts in July.
Yeah.
Because it came up in July. And so in July, I have less liquidity in my business. And then other people sometimes I'll buy their Christmas gift in October or November, and therefore I have less liquidity. And sometimes I bought people's Christmas gifts in February.
Oh, wow.
So because it came up at the time, and I was like, this is a good deal, it's a good opportunity, this makes sense.
I got you.
All of a sudden, if you're launching a campaign and you spend $150 on somebody's Christmas gift, you're probably, I'm not a backer. But then if you're on July and I bought everybody's Christmas gift, I have $300 in July. Like, there you go.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I think that's also what's happening too right now is we are entering the back span of the year, the last 4 months. And so now I have 3 more Christmas gifts to buy.
I got you.
One of them is out of the way. So I have to look at liquidity and I have to say, cool, whose projects am I backing and how much cash flow do I have? And I think that's what's happening too right now in certain ways is that, at least in my world, it's happening. I don't know about anybody else's, but that's where I'm at is that I'm well aware that certain people's expenditures have to come about.
Yeah.
So that's just what I think. And also, I just think that people are also just sick of freaking waiting for books.
Yeah, no, I feel that's a big thing too.
I mean, out of the 35, how many are you owed?
The what?
Out of the 35 Kickstarters you backed, how many are you owed?
Oh, like not too many actually. I think maybe like 3 or 4. It's not too bad.
I think I've backed 70. I'm owed about 10.
Oh, okay.
That's not good. That's not good. That's actually bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, statistically, if you back 100 and you're owed, if you backed 500 and you're owed 10, that's not terrible.
Yeah.
But I am 1/7 of my back to Kickstarters I'm owed. That's a problem. That means 1 out of 7. Now, some of them are on time, some of them are late. The ones that are late, I'm not. That's not counting the ones that are not due yet. I'm talking about the ones that are overdue. So 10 of them are overdue, and that's a problem for me. And they're not overdue by a week. They're overdue by like 3-4 months. And so I am politely calming down and saying, I like your book. I like what you do. I understand it. But guess what? I can't really add 5 new Kickstarters in until I get these 5.
No, yeah, I got you.
And I need people to answer their calls. Even though you didn't cause the problem, I can't back you because I'm owed a bunch of books. And until that is calmed down, that's where I'm at. And I think I think that's the problem I hear the most with Kickstarter and why people are getting frustrated. At least that's what I hear. Because story's not the problem. It's speed of delivery.
Yeah.
But I digress. I digress on all that. I'm just curious what you think, because you are very differently in the industry than I am.
Yeah.
At the moment, because you're a
No, I agree. I think that is the problem, but I haven't seen it too bad. Like honestly, like I think I've gotten a little lucky. We'll see. Yeah.
So let me ask this: what is late for you? That's a fair question, right?
I mean, it all depends. I think because I think like I have like actually my co-writer. He's been waiting for a book for 3 years.
What book is that? Is it by a good?
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to burn that bridge. But yeah, like
is it Drew Moss's book?
No.
That book's been out there for a while. People have been waiting for that book for a while too. EVS's book is people been waiting for that one for a while. I'm trying to think of people's books who are really, really late. Ryan Cummings' book is a disaster. I don't know if you know that story.
No, yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So Ryan did a book, and then his artist ran away with the money, and so it was supposed to be a graphic novel for the first 5 issues. Raised about $9,000, which is steep for a graphic novel. 168 pager. That's rough. And $9,000 is not going to get you anywhere near the finish line. You might be able to pay for the art, but you're going to have a hard time. Oh, snap. I don't know what just happened. It just went, I don't know. I'm like terrified now. I don't know what just happened. This is not good. Oh, snap. I don't know what just happened. I'm kind of scared. Hopefully my client will be back. Just went quiet. I don't know if somebody took him out. It might be bad. I will politely wait. Oh no, I don't know what happened. This is very, 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 very scary. Okay. Oh no. Because this is what happens when you talk about people's Kickstarters and them dissipating. Oh no, this is quite scary. Awkward turtle. So yeah, so I'll just brief everybody up on ads for a while. Obviously, I have Preston Poulter's book coming, and obviously that is Palace of the Golden Princess, which offers a fun, sexy romp through a fantasy RPG setting run by women, and that's a fascinating book. Obviously a lot of cool covers are in there, a lot of fun stuff's in there. Obviously, he has regular covers, he has not safe for work covers. I read the first issue. It's definitely D&D-esque, and it's kind of got a D&D vibe to it, which is super cool in a lot of ways. So there's that in there. Also, what I like about that is that, obviously you have some strong women, you got, some mystical stuff in there. You got a fascinating story, and obviously 3 issues in. And right now, with what he's doing, is that you can actually read issue 1 without having to, pay for it in a PDF format. And that's kind of cool. So you can get a vibe of, hey, where's this going? What type of story is this going towards? And things of that nature. And so that's something that's cool. And then on top of that, you also have J.D. Rossaro's book that's out there as well, which is Limbo. And I believe that's wrapping up soon. I know Preston's book is hitting right now. out there. I think it's funding. I think Preston's going to be probably coming on in a week or two, which is cool. So that's going to be fun. And so that's something to keep in mind as well, where he's going to be coming on in a week or two. But then JD has a book called Limbo, and Limbo is kind of a guy took over hell, and he's sitting with all the demons, and they all think he's this monstrous demon, and he's sort of, a not great person, but he's kind of just like an average Joe, and he's just sitting at a bar listening in. Everybody's trying to figure out who's the new devil/ruler of hell, and this guy is doing it, and then he has to figure out who can he trust, who can he not trust. People are vying for power, and it becomes a very, very interesting book because there's funny moments of saying, hey, how do I run hell? Who do I trust? Who do I believe? Who's telling the truth? And obviously there's a lot of other stuff in there too, where a lot of stuff happens in hell. Things get messed up. It's an unpretty sight, and not because hell is a hellish place to be, but because you have a lot of interworkings of politics and a variety of other stuff going on. But at the same time, it is a fun, enjoyable ride, because when you do have a regular non-demon running hell, what do you expect? So that's something to keep in mind right there, and everything that's going on with that. So that's something that's very cool about that. And there's some awesome covers, some awesome concepts in there. Also, the things that it's only 4 issues. So the actual commitment to the book is not terrible. It's not all that expensive. It's not a long series. And it's just one of those books where you're 4 issues in and 4 issues out. And then once that's done, it's kind of a self-containing story. I also believe that it is Unstoppable Comics, which is JD's property, his first book that is not a creator-owned project by him, but he is publishing it with the help from some other guys. And so that's a cool thing too, is that I think it's his first venture being a publisher and not being a writer or an artist or an editor on a project, but rather being a publisher, which is a whole different ballgame. And obviously I've spoken to JD Rosario about this frequently. So that's something to keep in mind too, is that's kind of cool on that regard. So it's just one of those things where obviously it's a fascinating story to read. It's an enjoyable story to read, and it's something to check out if it's still available. And if it's not still available, I'm sure that you can catch it in some fashion by reaching out to JD. And I know Preston's book, Palace of the Golden Princess, is live right now. And so there's a bunch of cool covers there. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And so that's just something I wanted to reach out to everybody. Obviously, I know that I don't know where my guest disappeared to. It's weird. Maybe I said something I don't know, but I'm not worrying too much about it. I'm obviously going to give him a few minutes to see if he's going to make it back. People's phones die. People have to deal with an emergency at a shop. Things happen. I am just politely waiting. I am sure that we will be getting in contact soon, hopefully. But, he is in California, and they do have rolling blackouts sometimes, which happens. But obviously we're going to give him a minute or two. That's what I got going on. And then just even further about me while we wait and I fill up time here. One of the things that is fascinating is right now I have an eBay store, and I do have some very, very cool books coming out on eBay and that are up right now. So I have some Mount Olympus Resident Evil stuff that's really rare, some holofoils, some metals, some nudes, some ultra rares are out there. So if you're looking for really cool books that are limited to like 25 or less or 15 or less, I have those. Most Mount Olympus books that I have tend to be approximately about 65 or less or 50 or less. I just put up a 50 or less book. So it's numbered to 50, so 1 through 50. So it's a very cool book. I believe it's Hera from Star Wars. I don't know much about her, but it's a cool book. So that book was only available for 24 hours, and it is gone. So keep that in mind. And it's an awesome book. It's a cool book, and I have 2 of those up. And then as I do have some Barbie book stuff up from Mount Olympus. I carry a lot of those. I have a lot of Zenoscope, bros cosplay stuff. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And that's really cool stuff out there. And there is a sticker program, so I do have some of those sticker books out there. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And yeah, so that's just something that I got going on. And then I have some Big Dog Ink stuff coming in the next few weeks that will be up there, and there's some really cool stuff. I think I'm going to be getting either some hollow foils, which are limited to 50 or less, or a metal, or an ultra rare, or something that's really cool. And most stuff from Tom, who runs Big Dog Ink, is 250 or less, or 150. Maybe there'll be a 300 in there. And so it's just cool stuff. And so I will be having about 24 to 30 of those books hitting my store. And some of them, obviously, I'm looking for myself. Some of them I'm going to sell. Some of them I might keep for myself. So that's something to keep in mind. And then I do have some other stuff from Mount Olympus. I got some stuff from Merc Mag up there. And so if you're looking for bad girl art and really cool limited books, I have all that stuff coming your way. So that's something to keep in the back of your head and your mind and all that stuff. It's very, very, very cool what I got going on. And yeah, so that's everything that I got pretty much going on with me. Obviously, I do not know where my guest is. He just ducked out. So I don't know if I did something that crossed the line. I don't think I did. But if we did, well, hopefully we'll be able to get him back on the show at some point and definitely talk. But in the process of us waiting, and I do have to give people, because phones do die sometimes, that happens, and people need to charge their phone up and catch it up and catch a break and figure something out, or somebody's making a phone call or something's going on in their life. Obviously, we're going to give him a chance to get back into all this, but continuing with my eBay store and everything that I got going on, obviously, I do carry a lot of books that are extremely limited. So I carry books that have 400 print runs, 300 print runs, 200 print runs, 100 print runs, and 65, 50, sometimes 15, and also sometimes print to order. So that's something to keep in mind. I also have stuff from Eternal Press coming my way. So that's something that's cool as well. And so there's some really cool books in that regard that are coming down the pike. And that's something to keep in the back of your head too. And so obviously that is something that is coming down the pike. So in the next probably 2 months, if you're seeing this, checking it out, looking at the backlog here, you're seeing the back end of this interview, there is a bunch of stuff coming. And it is going to be super, super cool what I got coming into my store. And there is a book for you on my whole store. So that's everything that I got going on. Obviously, I do not think my guest is going to make it back. I haven't heard anything from him. It's a little bit of a shame. Obviously, I thought we were having a good conversation. Obviously, things happen. And hopefully we'll get Peter back on at some point. But in the meanwhile, I will politely promote myself and his book. It is a children's book, and it can be found on Kickstarter. I did put the link in the description down below for all parties involved, so you could absolutely check that out. And I recommend that if you're into fun all ages books, you got kids, or you have somebody who is a child in your life, or you are a child at heart, whatever it may be. This is an excellent book for you. It's an awesome book. It's a fun book, and you'll learn a lot, and you'll have a good time with it. And again, it's an all ages book, so that's what's cool about this. And I recommend you at least go check it out. Furthermore, about me and what I do. Obviously, I am Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, Twitter /X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and you can go follow me all across there. And I really do appreciate when people interact with me on social media. I do appreciate when people check me out, follow me on those platforms, engage with me, share out my content. I really appreciate when people actually subscribe on YouTube, because that does make a huge difference. And it's really important. It's really important. And I do appreciate when people leave comments. It goes a long way. And it's something that is really, really, really helpful and really, really good. and I appreciate subscriptions a lot more than anything else. So really appreciate that. And as I stated, I am Pop Anime Comics Collectibles. Let me speak. I am Pop Anime Comics Collectibles on eBay. And so if you're looking for rare books, that is the place to go. And a lot of stuff comes across my desk and onto my store every single week, along with a lot of really cool cards. So that's something to keep in the back of your head, everybody, or if you're looking for some cool stuff. So that's everything that I got. And I really appreciate everybody tuning in, checking it out. Obviously, I think Peter just got a bad connection. Something happened. But obviously, Peter's always welcome back here. And I look forward to connecting with him and hoping for the best and seeing what happens. And go check out his book. I think the conversation was a good one. And we will definitely be in touch, me and him. And I really appreciate him when he sees this for coming on and spending time with us. And that's everything I got. And I appreciate everything, everybody. And have a good night. And I believe that is a wrap.